The following podcast contains strong language and frank discussions of violence. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello, all you little kitties out there in Murderland. Welcome to our version of the romper room we like to call Murder Amongst Friends. Our loyal listeners who were with us last week might have heard a little tiny spat between my previous co-host Michael and myself, where he was soliciting new best friends. So, to punish him for this indiscretion, this egregious indiscretion, I will be delivering the story today, and Michael will be reacting, because I know that that's the role that he's most comfortable in.
No, that is not true.
Michael, welcome to the show, Michael.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You're welcome. I'm a very generous host. Also a very generous friend, apparently. So,
very forgiving and magnanimous.
you're lucky I love you so much.
I truly, truly am.
You really are. Because I was like, don't think I wasn't like hitting people up going, what are you doing this week? You want to record a podcast? I guess I'll allow you to deliver any little news tidbit items.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
There is a smaller story out of Miami that's pretty interesting. Also extends to Hawaii.
Oh.
There was a 26-year-old woman who was famous for being an OnlyFans model.
Shout out to OnlyFans.
Courtney Clenny, who stabbed her boyfriend.
Oh, shoot. He wouldn't pay the monthly fee, or?
No, they had apparently a pretty tumultuous relationship.
Is there any other kind of relationship these days, Michael?
Well, not many that don't end in stabbings. There was a video released not too long before the stabbing of the couple in an elevator where she appears to have instigated a violent altercation and slapped him around pretty good.
She Solange Knowles him in an elevator?
Yeah, but she's apparently I would venture to guess, a pretty successful model, because they have the elevator opened right into their apartment.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Okay.
So she's probably doing pretty well for
Here's
herself.
the thing, guys. If your life is that good, like, that you can afford, people are living on the streets.
Yeah.
If you can afford an apartment at the top of some fucking rich-ass plaza with an elevator that goes directly to your suite,
Yeah.
can we knock it off and just maybe enjoy life a little bit?
Yeah. So they had apparently been together since November 2020, but from the jump, it was a pretty rocky.
Yeah. Well, nobody should have started a relationship in 2020.
Yeah. Multiple building complaints of loud arguments and stuff smashing around from
Rich
their
people
apartment.
don't like...
Yeah. Oh, no. They don't like tumult.
They don't like tumult.
A little bit before the stabbing, she had kicked him out of the apartment. Like, you can't stay here.
Okay.
But about 2 days before the stabbing, she let him move back in. They reconciled.
Yeah.
So sometime between 4:33 and 4:57 on April 3rd, they put that time frame in because they also have a place where you scan entry in.
Oh, jeez.
So they have key fob
Of course you do.
records.
Yes, obviously, Mike.
So at some point between going in and then her coming back
Do they have a
out,
concierge that lives in the apartment with them
that
to
will do
bring
the stabbing,
them juice and
that
things?
does the stabbing for her.
Yeah. She's like, I want to murder my boyfriend. He's like,
Yeah.
right away, ma'am.
So this argument happens, the stabbing happens. Apparently she called her mom twice before she called 911. And that was the 4:57 time.
So she called her mom to say, like, I stabbed him.
Yeah, what do I
And
do?
her
What
mom
do
was
I do?
probably like, call 911, you dippy bitch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she eventually calls 911. In the background, her boyfriend's not dead yet. And he can, saying he's heard in the background saying that he's losing feeling in his arm.
Oh, no.
He's dying. She also says to him, not directly into the mic, but it can be heard, I'm so sorry. So, like, all of these things together aren't looking good in her favor.
I wonder if there's a history of mutual violence or if she's really the instigator all the time.
I believe it is mutual, but I think the focus being, since she did the stabbing, this was the closest documented argument that we had.
Right.
And she seems to be the instigator. Now, we don't know what happened before they got onto the elevator.
Right.
But she seems to at least initiate the violence. So any sort of self-defense claim that she may try to come up with when she's on, at trial, it's going to be harder to prove because this video is out there now.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess she could say he was saying horrible things to me. I slapped him in the elevator to get him to stop, and we went in the apartment, he attacked me, and then I had to stab him.
So this is the story.
Unless they have cameras inside the apartment.
They might. Nothing's been released yet, obviously, but Clenny said that they had an argument, that the boyfriend grabbed her by the throat and shoved her against the wall. Then apparently she claims he threw her to the ground but allowed her to get back up, at which time she ran to the kitchen, grabbed a knife, and she said threw it at him from about 10 feet away.
No, ma'am. Forensics is going to prove that is 100% a lie in about 2 seconds.
That's correct. The medical examiner's report found that the boyfriend's stab wounds occurred from a, quote, forceful downward thrust.
Right.
Not being thrown.
No. She's not like Conan the Barbarian, just like
Right.
whipping.
And
like
it's also a kitchen knife, not like a battle axe.
Yeah.
Also, that night, the police saw no injuries on
her. Ooh, well, that's not
which
good.
she probably would have had if he grabbed
well,
her
yeah. You'd think. Well, you'd think.
And threw her against the...
Well, he threw her to the ground. Even
Yeah.
maybe she would just have like a bruise somewhere, but that's not looking good for her.
She fled to Hawaii. But
Okay.
last Wednesday, August 10th, she was arrested and is being extradited back to Florida, where she will then obviously stand trial, and we will follow it, and I'm sure it will become widely covered because she is an OnlyFans model, but it is a...
Hey guys, not every OnlyFans model is a murdering psychopath. Shout out to the sex workers out there.
Yeah. Shout out to the ones who don't kill people.
Shout out. Sex work is work.
Yes.
Respect. Well, Mike, we haven't done a two-parter in a while.
We have not.
Since your friend and mine, Larry Greco.
Good old Larry G.
Good old Larry G. But I wanted to do this particular story because it didn't necessarily happen. It happened before I was born. Not much before I was born. It happened before I was born, but sort of the aftermath of it.
The fallout.
So, yeah. So part of the story and the cultural impact then made a big impact on me as a youngin'. So...
And has led you to this life of true crime.
Yeah. It was actually one of the stories that impacted me the most. The first one being
the story of an alien named Mork.
No. The first one was the story of Adam Walsh because he got kidnapped. I believe we were the same age at the time, and then they found him with his head cut off, and he was like sexually abused. And so I was convinced that like I was also going to get kidnapped, and like my head was going to get cut off as a kid. So that made a big impact.
Yeah,
and
I would say.
then this one later on. So it's a little convoluted, but we'll get there. Trust me.
I love a twisty turny. Wait, what happened? Story.
Yeah. This is the story of Stephen Gregory Stayner and his older brother, Cary Anthony Stayner.
Oh, two people.
It's
two
a twofer.
Part.
It's a twofer. On April 18th, 1965, Stephen Gregory Stayner was born in Merced, California, the third of 5 children to his parents, who were, how quaint, Kay and Delbert Stayner.
Delbert Stayner.
Which the name Delbert always makes me think of Dilbert, and then all I can picture is that little cartoon guy. So the whole time I was looking into this, I had that little guy's face in my head. His little cartoon head.
The creator of that is a humongous Trumper.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The cartoon, like the strip itself is now all conspiracy theory shit. Like there's a Dilbert cartoon about the Mar-a-Lago raid
Oh, God.
and how it was like unjust or whatever.
Stephen had 3 sisters and an older brother, Cary, who will become a major player in this story much later on.
Oh boy, tease.
The Stayners were a lower middle class family. They lived close to Yosemite National Park, and good old Delbert. Ugh, now I don't even want to talk about him because now I can think of. Now I think of Delbert, then I think of Dilbert, then I think of Trump. So thanks for that.
Sorry.
Delbert worked as a mechanic in a factory, and Kay was a stay-at-home mother.
Back when that was possible.
Back when you could do that, you know, back when your husband could work and support the entire household.
Yeah.
And the mom could afford to stay home with her 5 kids.
5 kids. Oy,
5,
oy.
imagine. So he's making enough money for 2 adults, 5 kids at that time. Some people described Kay as cold and not very emotionally expressive with her kids.
Okay.
And it was known that Kay had been sexually abused by her father, which is a pretty good explanation for her being standoffish and hands-offish with her own kids.
Yeah, I would say so.
Her son, Cary, the older brother, the oldest, well, older because there's 2, but, you know, the oldest brother, was molested throughout his childhood by his uncle.
Oh, wonderful.
And Kay's daughters were molested by Delbert.
Oh, wonderful. Was Cary's uncle Delbert's brother or Kay's brother?
I believe it was the dad's, but I'm not 100%.
Okay.
Not 100%.
I mean,
but,
it ultimately doesn't matter, but it
right.
would be, is it 2 brothers that are both doing that? Or is it a dad and a son?
Yeah. But I mean, like, a family's completely fucked up. There's like generations of incest and pedophilia going on.
Great.
So that's why the story of this family is incredible. And there's so much going on in this one tiny family. It's not tiny. Well, this one family has so much going on that you're like, how is this possible?
This family of 7, all 5 children victims so far.
Yeah. So it's pretty mind-blowing. And we haven't even gotten to the first core of the story yet. So let's get into it, Michael.
There's so many crimes already, but we haven't even started
started the story yet. All right. On December 4th, 1972, so technically I wasn't born yet. About 3 years before.
Technically about
3 years.
Literally
I wasn't born yet. 3 years before I was born. Stephen, who was age 7 at the time, was walking back to his house from school when a man in a car who was posing as a minister, how sinister, got Stephen to get in the car with him and another man.
Oh.
The man who was driving the car, his name is Kenneth Parnell. Kenneth Parnell was an absolute piece of shit. Creep festival.
Is it Chris Parnell's dad?
He was born on September 26, 1931, during the Great Depression.
He's a pretty depressing fella.
In Texas.
Oh, good.
And later moved to California, where he was raised by mostly his mother, sometimes his absentee father, but he definitely had reoccurring issues with the law, and he was in and out of juvie and mental facilities.
Real dust bowl shit.
In 1951, when Kenneth Parnell was 20, he was arrested for sodomizing a boy that he lured by pretending to be
a minister,
a cop.
Oh, a cop. He's hitting all of them.
He's got the guys, the YMCA-ing these kids. Using a badge that he literally bought at an Army surplus store.
Cool.
Like one of those places where you can go and, So, but he
buy shit no one should have.
Right, exactly right. I don't know why they sell that shit. Anyway, I actually bought an Army hat. Like one of those old-timey ones that, like, point at the front and the... You know what I mean? Like, they point in the front and the back with that little cap. Like,
yeah, when they come home on leave.
Yes, that one. I bought one of those for, like, a shoot one time. But, but the guy in there was very strange. Anyway.
He's surrounded by haunted memorabilia.
I was like, do you have one of these? Okay, good. Let me get that and get out of here.
Because I'm not trying to be turned into some sort of trafficked person.
I'm not trying to be in the back room somewhere. So he was sentenced to 4 years in prison.
That's all.
That's it.
For
sodomizing a child.
Yeah. 4 years.
Do you want to know his reason for sodomizing the boy? Because he gave a reason in an interview from the year 2000.
Is this pathetic, disgusting, or infuriating?
All three.
Oh, Jesus. What could... Okay, if he tries to say he was, like, checking his pulse or some bullshit, like...
No. His reason for kidnapping and sodomizing a child is because at the time he committed this horrific act, his wife was pregnant, and he, quote, had to find another outlet.
Okay, I wish there was an audio, like a sound that could have come from the face that I made.
Your eyes went, ooh.
Yeah.
Like that thing where the eyes pop out.
So...
Yeah.
Like...
Yeah.
An of-age sex worker wasn't around. He couldn't have just found somebody at a bar and cheated, just in that normal way with an adult human person.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
It
was the 50s, I guess. It was a crazy time. I don't know.
I wonder and kind of hope that the interviewer, whoever it was, laughed right in their face.
I would have smacked him in his mouth. I would have given him a skiffing fotch. Let's get back to Stephen. So recap, it's December 4th, 1972, and Parnell and his accomplice, named Edwin Irvin Murphy, who was a co-worker of Parnell.
Oh, great.
Kidnapped Stephen. So Murphy was pretending to be a minister, not Parnell.
Okay.
Okay.
He's just in plain clothes piece of shit.
Yeah, he's just a plainclothes POS.
He's not dressing up as a piece of shit like a minister
he's
or
like,
a cop.
no, this is my costume.
Yeah.
It's me.
I'm playing a normal person.
I'm playing myself. Murphy was described by people who knew him as sort of feeble-minded, naive, easily duped.
Yeah.
So obviously very easy for a scumbag like Parnell to manipulate him.
Yeah, because I was wondering that.
Yeah.
Like if they had the same...
Weird proclivity or...
Yeah, I was going to say predilection, but how do you find that out?
Yeah. Having a cup of coffee in the break room and you're like, did you ever sodomize a child?
Dude, no way.
Oh my God, me too. Yeah.
So,
I don't know.
Okay, that makes a little more sense that he's being manipulated.
Yeah, I'm not sticking up for old Eddie Murphy here, okay?
Okay.
But if he has a really low IQ, I can see how,
Yeah, it's a Brendan Dassey situation.
Tricked,
Yeah, Brendan Dassey.
Yeah,
kind of
but
thing.
exactly Brendan Dassey. Oh, that poor kid. They need to just let him go home. Anyway. Parnell convinced Murphy to act as a minister and pass out religious leaflets to boys walking home from school.
I can't wait to find out that his wife was pregnant and he needed to do something.
Parnell told Murphy that the reason he needed his help in getting a boy was so Parnell could, quote, raise him in a religious type deal.
A religious type deal? So why don't you put on the minister's outfit then, buddy?
Well, he doesn't want to be seen on the streets, I guess. Well, also, what is a religious type deal?
I think we'll have to ask good old Kenny.
Ugh, bleh. Gross.
It probably means he's full of shit.
I'm going to raise him to believe in God?
I think.
Or what, I don't.
I think Eddie probably.
Let me take him from his his family wasn't normal, but they don't know that.
Right.
Let me take him from his maybe normal, loving home and raise him in some religious type deal? What does that mean?
I wonder if Eddie was a little more religious himself, and that was the technique that
I don't know.
used to manipulate him, and he couldn't give a shit. So he's like, "Yeah, I'll raise him
religious
type deal."
One of those religious type deals that you people do.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pieces of shit.
Right.
Part of the way that they convinced Stephen to get in the car. Don't forget, he's 7, Mike.
Yeah, so it could have just been like, hey,
I mean, they could have just grabbed him and threw him in the car, but
right.
Murphy asked him if his mother would be willing to make a donation to the local church. And Stephen said she would. Yeah, I think she would. And so Murphy said, well, why don't you get in the car and we'll drive, tell us where you live, we'll drive to your house, and we're going to collect the money from your mom.
Okay.
Well.
I mean, I guess a person with a higher IQ would have seen, okay, well, if they're donating to the church, they're already being raised in a religious type deal, so why do you need them?
Exactly.
It
so
should have been no.
Murphy was clearly not the brightest bulb.
Right.
But obviously, instead of going to Stephen's house to pick up the money, Parnell drove Stephen to his cabin.
Great.
Of all places, a cabin.
Ugh.
You drive to a cabin, some shit's going down. Yeah. In an area, a really small area called Kathy's Valley. which is like 22 miles northeast of Merced, which is where Stephen's family lived in Merced.
Right.
So just as a reference, as of the 2020 census, Cathy's Valley had a population of 829.
Oh,
so it's
okay.
really small.
Yeah, but that makes being incognito a little more difficult.
A little more difficult. Or are you the weird loner in the cabin who, I mean, I'm not going fucking making friends with my neighbor in a cabin.
No, that's true.
Like just a remote cabin.
Yeah,
like,
I don't feel like becoming friends with Kaczynski.
No thanks. No thank you. My luck. What's his Captain Spaulding comes out. He's like, hello, come in. We're having a party. Like, I'm like, I'm good.
Gas and chicken.
Parnell told little Stephen that his parents didn't have the money to keep him anymore because they had so many kids.
So he knew that. So he staked him out a little bit. Ugh.
And that the court system had decided to make Parnell Stephen's permanent guardian. So he told this little boy that
very obviously wouldn't know better.
Yeah. That his parents could not afford him, and a judge, you live with me now.
Yeah.
Hi, you live with me now. A strange grown man.
How do you make sure he doesn't run away? Convince him that he's not actually kidnapped.
Yeah, exactly right. Kenneth Parnell, this giant MFing POS.
See, the problem with his name, though, is it makes me think of Kenneth Parcell from 30 Rock, so all I can think of is Jack
Kenneth.
Yeah.
Kenneth.
So that's what I'm picturing.
Oh, no, please don't listen. Don't besmirch.
I know.
Parnell began molesting Stephen that night.
Of course.
Just, your parents don't want you. You live with me now. Here's the new routine.
Yeah, that's a lot of
That's a lot
to
of
dump on a kid.
Everything.
Yeah.
And then about 2 weeks later, he fully started raping him. Yeah. Stephen, of course, would break down and cry and say that he wanted to go home and he wants his parents, and Parnell would just reiterate they don't want you.
It's catastrophe for this kid.
Yeah. I mean, he went from saying they don't have the money to then saying
they don't want you.
Which is, I can't imagine the trauma, but it was at that point that Parnell began calling Stephen Dennis Gregory Parnell.
Right.
So he kept his middle name and he kept his birthday the same. Mm-hmm. One, I think, to make it easier to remember, but two, he also enrolled him in school because almost immediately he started presenting Stephen to the outside world as his son.
Right. Great.
Where the fuck did he come from, sir?
Yeah.
If you do live in a small area, let's say you do live in a small area and people see you coming and going, where the fuck did you get a 7-year-old son, sir?
That was his cabin already. It wasn't like a place they
it was his.
Okay. Then where the fuck did he
Where
come
did
from?
you get a fucking
if you moved to a new place.
Right. Hello. I moved in, I got everything set up, and then I brought my son over when I was settled. But where'd you get this kid, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not one of the 879 were
not
curious
one
at all.
Say, where did you get this young boy child, sir? Yeah.
Not even the teachers.
No.
Who would clearly have seen signs of abuse on this kid.
Well,
maybe not in the 70s.
We'll see. Stephen and Parnell moved frequently throughout California, living in places like Santa Rosa and surrounding areas, and Parnell continued to pass Stephen off as his son. Stephen reported that Parnell would alternately beat him, pretty savagely, and then he would go through periods where he would spoil him. So it's that clear manipulation that I'll harm you, then I'll be sweet, I'll make promises that won't happen, I'll give you gifts, I'll love bomb, I'll gaslight you. It's all we know all the bullshit. We know the story.
That's typically
just a typical abuser.
In dating relationships, typically. Yeah. But this is kidnapper, kidnapped.
Kidnappee.
Yeah.
Right? Kidnapper, kidnappee. So, I mean, it's just classic bullshit.
Yep.
And you're doing it to a child, which is making me want to throw up my mouth a little bit. But I guess as a sort of an apology, or maybe just to make him more pliable to his creepy demands, Parnell would allow Stephen to drink alcohol, smoke cigarettes, come and go as he pleased. He went to school, he had friends, he did extracurricular shit, whatever.
He had his own life and access to numb his own pain.
Right. And Parnell had jobs, like he would do these like odd jobs. So I don't think he ever really had like a very steady full-time job because they moved around. And so sometimes he just did piecemeal work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he had jobs where he was out of the house quite a bit sometimes, leaving Stephen by himself. And he could have easily told someone or at the school or asked for help, called the police, but he never did.
Well, what does he think the alternative is, right? I don't know. He doesn't know that. I mean, I don't know how much time has passed, but he thinks that if something were to happen, if he needed to be taken from this guy,
right,
just some random other person would pick him up, and then he'd have to live with them now.
Yeah, and who knows what they might do,
exactly.
Because he thinks, in his little mind, he probably thinks, this is how other people live.
Right.
Maybe his dad, maybe his dad wasn't doing it to him, he was doing it to his
right.
predilection was more towards the girls.
Or the uncle on...
Cary.
Yeah.
So maybe Stephen somehow got spared, but like maybe he just thinks this is what other people do in their house.
Or maybe he knew it was happening to Cary, and he wasn't in the uncle's sights yet or something, but knew
maybe
that it was happening.
Yeah. But like, let's think about it for a second. He was 7, so he may not have really been schooled yet on like stranger danger or how to call the police.
Yeah.
And
well, stranger danger didn't really happen until
like the
80s,
right?
Yeah.
But also, let's not forget, Parnell's the one who feeds him,
right,
clothes him, is his protector and his abuser at this point. And
right, he's harming him, but he's
I mean, and this monster has been his father figure for like 7 years. He kept him for 7 years. Okay, so it must have been incredibly difficult to like reconcile all of that in this kid's head and just being drilled in his head like every day.
Plus, you're 7.
I love you. Your parents didn't want you.
Right.
I take care of you. I provide for you. The things that you have because of me. Imagine how that made him feel.
But he probably had memories from his previous life still.
So, yeah, he had some memories, some things he couldn't remember, and some he could. But if all that wasn't bad enough.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's pretty bad.
In between this 7-year period, for about 18 months or so, Parnell actually had a mistress who lived with them. Called Barbara Matthias or Matthias, however you want to. It's Mathias. So it's either Matthias or Matthias.
Yeah.
According to Stephen, later on, he said that Matthias and Parnell raped him together about 10 times when he was roughly 9. So about 2 years after he was taken by Parnell, he gets this girlfriend. She moves in. Over a 2-year period, they both do stuff together to this kid.
Okay, because I was going to ask, did she know the kid wasn't his son?
She claimed later.
She was in on everything. Then.
She claimed later she didn't know he was kidnapped. But even still, if you thought it was your boyfriend's son, I'm going to start yelling now. I'm backing away. You could probably hear me backing away. Yeah. If you thought it was your boyfriend's fucking son, though.
Right. How is that an excuse? That's an excuse of my wife is pregnant. I need to take it out on
It's
something.
bullshit.
It's total bullshit.
So, fuck Barbara Matthias also.
Yeah.
She can eat a dick. Sorry about that, guys. I get a little crazy. I don't like stuff like that happens to kids, but... Well, Michael, as the tale as old as time goes, as Stephen got older, inevitably, pesky puberty started to creep in.
No.
And this was a big turnoff for the Creep Master General, Kenneth Parnell.
Yep.
So he would enlist Stephen to help him kidnap another younger boy to, quote, build his family. These quotes are sickening.
Yeah.
Stephen, though, to his credit, always managed to sabotage the kidnapping attempts. He would fuck it up in some way because he didn't want another boy to go through what he was going through. But he fucked up so many attempts that Parnell would berate him and hit him and call him incompetent.
Yeah, okay. Great. I'm incompetent at kidnapping people. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, oh, sorry. I'm incompetent at being a fucking loser. So, despite Stephen's best efforts, though, Kenneth Parnell continued in this sick quest to steal yet another child away from his family. And on February 14th, 1980, Kenneth Parnell succeeded. He enlisted a friend of Stephen's, a teenage boy named Randall Sean Poorman, to help him kidnap 5-year-old.
Fuck you, Randall.
Timmy White in...
Of course his name is Timmy.
I know. In Ukiah, which is about 4 hours from Merced.
Yeah.
Parnell brought the boy home and he presents him to Stephen as his new brother, much to Stephen's dismay.
Okay.
Yeah. Here's your new brother.
I mean, that's...
We got him on the street. I know you tried to fuck it up, but
yeah, I mean,
I succeeded.
That's ultimate defeat for Stephen.
Yeah.
But does Stephen now start to think, definitely going to get killed now?
Well, I don't think that he was, like, let's say he wouldn't have been the favorite.
Right.
You know.
Obviously, he's done with me.
Or he's just going to keep me in the hopes that eventually I'll give in and just help him collect a gaggle of young boys.
Well, no. He's clearly expendable because he got another kid to help him get the kid.
Yeah. But he's had this kid for 7 years, so he may have...
Yeah, but now he's starting to talk with a little bit of a deep voice, and he doesn't like it.
I don't like it. Well, Stephen couldn't help but feel terrible for this little boy.
Yeah, of course.
He couldn't help feeling scared for him, and he couldn't allow him to harm Timmy in the ways that he was harmed by Parnell.
Right.
So he started to make a plan to get the hell out of Dodge. Go, Stephen.
You grabbed Timmy. GTFO.
Well, yeah. After a couple of weeks where Timmy's crying and he wants to go home, and I don't believe in those couple of weeks Parnell
managed to get at him.
Yeah, I don't think he got at him or didn't get at him too much. I think he did, but at that point, Stephen had enough.
Yeah.
So on March 1st, 1980, which was literally, 3 weeks later or something like that, when Parnell went to his little piddly fucking night job.
Yeah.
Stephen threw Timmy on his back, and they hitchhiked like 40 miles back to Ukiah.
Wow.
Where they tried to find Timmy's house, but Timmy being five couldn't point it out, so they ended up going to a police station. This should come as no big shock to you, Michael, or anyone who listens to the podcast. But the police at first just considered Stephen a delinquent.
Yeah. Just with a 5-year-old sidekick. A real
or
Batman
maybe
and
they're
Robin.
Both delinquents, After all, Stephen didn't really remember too much information from when he was younger. He was only 7 after all.
Yep.
Give the kid a break.
Right.
But he did write something down for the officers. He wrote a little paragraph, and within that paragraph, he wrote, "I know my first name is Stephen." Let's not forget this other piece of shit's been making him live at some kid called Dennis.
Yeah.
Dennis. Really? Dennis.
Demonstrate value.
Yeah, demonstrate the Dennis system. After the cops finally get their shit together, Mike, and they did a little research and some deductive reasoning, like cops do.
Detecting.
Little detective work.
Yeah.
They realized that he was Stephen Stayner.
Right.
Who had indeed been kidnapped, and that the boy with him is Timmy White, who has also been kidnapped. By the next morning, that scuzzo, Kenneth Parnell, had been arrested. Yes, on suspicion of abduction. Suspicion of abduction, though?
Yeah,
suspicion of abduction, though?
Well, I guess it has to be until it can be verified.
I have no idea, Michael, but it's ridiculous. But as they were digging into Parnell's background, they came across that pesky 1951 sodomy conviction.
Whoopsie.
But at that time, Stephen was stating that Parnell never sexually abused him. He did not want to talk about it. He's like 14.
Yeah.
He's turning 15. Like, do you know what I mean? He doesn't want to talk about a grown man,
especially in the
having his way,
especially in the late 70s, early 80s, like a man doing that
too. That's a whole other unfounded stigma that should have never existed in the first place.
Right.
So, well, later that day, both boys were reunited with their families to much media and fanfare. Lots and lots and lots of bullshit going on.
Yeah.
It was completely overwhelming for Stephen and Timmy, as you can imagine.
Yeah.
It was overwhelming for their families. It was overwhelming. It was an overwhelming scenario for everyone who had been following the story for like nearly a decade.
Yeah. Also, before we get too far away from it, how incredible is it that after all they both went through, they hitchhiked 40 miles?
40 miles.
Without incident?
They hitchhiked. Yeah. People just dropping them off a little bit. They'd get out. They'd hitchhike again. They'd get out. 40 miles to get this kid. And then they wandered around the neighborhood. He was going to deliver this kid back to his door. This poor kid. this kid's a hero for
Yeah.
doing this.
Yeah.
I mean,
And sabotaging all those other attempts.
yes. I mean, go Steven, right?
Yeah.
So it took about a year, but Parnell was tried and convicted of kidnapping both boys. However, this is going to make you mad. He was not charged with the numerous sexual assaults for the most ridiculous of reasons, all of them which make me want to smash my face into a concrete wall.
If you say they couldn't prove like that it happened,
Most of the sexual assaults, Michael, occurred outside the
statute of
Merced
limitations?
County jurisdiction or were outside the statute of limitations.
Okay, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Can we make sex crimes a felony, please? And like remove jurisdictional bullshit?
And also remove any and all statutes anywhere about it. Like there should be no statute of rape, molestations,
no
sex assaults. So there should be none. Zero.
Yeah, I don't care if
The number of fucks I give,
Yeah.
that should be the statute. Zero.
Yeah. Correct.
Not great. Parnell received 7 years. 7 years, Michael.
Press the fucking sex assault charges in the counties they happened in then.
7 years,
Try
which
that.
was the maximum allowed under California law at the time.
For kidnapping 2 people.
Doesn't matter, I think, at the time how many people you kidnapped or in what succession or how long you kept them. The maximum at the time, I believe, was just a flat 7 years.
So
Which is
the
fucking
same amount
obnoxious.
of time that Stephen had to serve, basically.
Right, pretty much. Yeah. If that's not a bitter pill to swallow. And he was released after 5, though.
Oh, great. I love the good behavior.
Eddie Murphy, Parnell's feeble-minded friend who helped him by acting like a minister, was given 5 years. He was let out after 2.
How? I mean, I guess
I think it's because they thought he was, and I think Stephen even said this later on, that he felt that Murphy was just as much a victim as he was of Parnell.
Yeah.
And maybe not a sexual assault victim, but manipulated and
Right. I
used.
just don't see how under the law the person who actually did the kidnapping gets 7 and the person who assisted gets almost as much.
Right.
I guess they're equally culpable because without both of them, it probably wouldn't have worked.
Yeah.
It wasn't coming through.
But he got let out after 2. And fucking that piece of shit, Barbara Matthias.
Yeah.
Was never charged because she cooperated with the authorities and she tried to sell them the bullshit story that she didn't know Stephen was kidnapped. But why they let her off for 9 rapes of a child because she complied with an investigation is fucking beyond me. It's beyond my comprehension. It's beyond my level of patience.
Yeah. They've never let somebody who was an accomplice in a murder
9 rapes of a child.
go completely.
Nothing. She got nothing.
Right. They reduce the sentence for that person because they're cooperating.
A plea
but they
deal,
still
but
get
not
something. They don't just walk
nothing.
away. Yeah.
Poor man, Stephen's friend,
Yeah.
got sent to like a juvie camp. He was 17, I think, at the time when it happened.
17.
So he went to like a work camp.
I thought he was closer to Steven's age, maybe 14,
A
15 or something.
little bit older. Maybe Stephen's like turning 15. Maybe this kid just turned 17. Who knows? They were in school together. Basically.
Yeah, but in terms of should he have probably known better? Could he have been tried in his adults?
Yeah, but who knows what this? Maybe he was hanging out with Parnell. Parnell's giving him alcohol, let him smoke cigarettes, coming over there and he'll crash out, like doing stupid shit, you know, letting them fucking blow up shit in the backyard and stupid shit that teenagers like to do, you know.
Manipulated.
Yeah, just manipulated him as well, you know. Stephen's kidnapping, one good thing, though, that came out of it, his kidnapping and all the furor that surrounded it prompted California government to change their laws, quote, to allow consecutive prison terms in similar abduction cases.
Yes. Okay. So it was no matter how many people you take, it's concurrent at the time.
Right.
Who wrote the law that way?
Well,
that's stupid.
Yeah, it's totally stupid. So quick wrap up on our friend Kenny Parnell. In 2003, at the age of 71, Michael, he was arrested yet again.
Oh.
For trying to convince his nurse's sister into purchasing a 4-year-old boy for the amount of, do you want to guess how much he was willing to pay for this child?
Okay, this is either going to be comedically high or horrifically low.
Hey, which way are you going?
I'm going to say because he's a piece of shit and 71 with major felony convictions on his record, I'm assuming he's not rolling in the dough. I'm going to say he was willing to pay a whopping $250 for this child.
$500. Close.
That was close.
Well, Michael, this lady was not trying to hear his bullshit.
Yeah.
Because she was aware of his past. So she
good.
contacted authorities. They set up a fucking sting.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And the son of a bitch, Parnell, told her to make sure that the child had, fucking ready.
Oh, no.
For another quote from our boy, KP. A, quote, clean rectum.
Hey, what?
Which would indicate that he planned on abusing the child.
Doing something with the butthole.
Yes. Well, shit. He was arrested on January 3rd, 2003, telling the authorities that he, quote, only wanted a family.
Yeah, stop saying stuff.
I stopped saying stuff, you gross-ass pig.
Also,
you wanted a family.
I really wish Chris Hansen was
A nambly is what you wanted, not a family. You wanted a fucking nambly, you fucking piece of shit. Imagine he walks out and he's like, what are you doing?
Take a seat. Well, you're already sitting, probably wheelchair bound.
What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Why do you have a box of cookies and condoms with you?
I just came to see if it was okay.
Yeah. I was coming to pet the cat. He was convicted like a year later on the charges of attempting to purchase a child, attempted child molestation, with the prosecutor arguing that Stephen finally giving testimony that he was sexually abused by Parnell. Obviously, it all came out.
Right. Along
with the sex toys and sex aids and pornography found in Parnell's apartment, pretty much proved he would continue down his degraded path.
Yeah.
He was handed a sentence of 25 years to life due to California's 3 strikes law.
Yep.
With Stephen being number 1.
Right.
Timmy being number 2.
Right.
And the child that he was attempting to buy and molest being number 3. What would have been number 3 had he not been thwarted.
That's some real inflation of the price of that. You got one for free.
Yeah.
You had to kind of split it with a teenager the second time.
Yeah.
Now you got to pay $500.
Ugh,
These prices.
Jesus
Thanks, Obama.
Christ. Well, that piece of shit died in jail in 2008. Good riddance.
So he served life.
He sure did. But let's forget about Parnell and go back to Stephen and his family.
Let's wrap up the Stephen story and be on our merry way. That's the end of it, right?
Well,
there's nothing else.
Well, you would think. He got to go home to his family. It was not all sunshine and rainbows like you would think. Stephen had a terrible time readjusting to normal lifestyle because Parnell let him do whatever he wanted.
Yeah.
His parents had rules, and they were fairly strict, I'd say.
Yep.
And it was tough to reconcile having to live in a structured existence versus the loose way of living that he'd, grown accustomed to with this,
and literally
abuser.
Saving his own life. And saving the life of a 5-year-old boy. He was obviously responsible enough to do that. I'm not responsible enough to go out at night, Mom.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ, Mom. Oh my God, I hate you. And he slams the door.
I saved Timmy.
I know. Stephen later explained that, quote, and this is such a sad quote from him. It really makes me sad. Quote, returned home almost a grown man, and yet my parents saw me at first as their 7-year-old. After they stopped trying to teach me the fundamentals all over again, it got better. But why doesn't my dad hug me anymore? Sometimes I blame myself. I don't know if I should have come home. Would I have been better off if I didn't?
Oh, God.
Is that not the most heartbreaking?
Grim as fuck.
It is grim.
Holy shit.
That is grim. I know. It's been reported that Stephen did a brief stint in counseling, but he never sought out additional help because according to one of his sisters, their father said Stephen, quote, didn't need any.
Yeah, okay. The guy
I hate to say the sign of the times, but he's also molesting his daughters and all this other shit.
Says the guy who
right.
Yeah,
who's clearly also not the dad of the year.
Right.
He also never fully revealed the full extent of the abuse suffered at Parnell's hands. And his sister stated that even though he pretty much got on with his life pretty good, he was, quote, pretty messed up.
Yeah. Wouldn't you be?
I mean, yeah, to say the least. He was being bullied at school for what had happened to him.
For being Steven Stayner.
For being molested. They were calling him gay and saying all kinds of stuff.
Exactly why he wouldn't have come forward with.
Exactly right. Yeah. Because kids are fucking terrible.
Yep.
It ended up being too much.
Adults aren't great either.
Shitty kids grow up to be shitty adults, Mike.
Go.
It ended up being too much for Steven, and he eventually dropped out of school, started drinking, and before you know it, he got kicked out of the old house, Mike. But
how do you kick your previously kidnapped child out of your house?
Michael, this is a standoffish mother and an abusive father. I mean,
fucking Delbert.
And Kay.
Get it together.
The fuck, Kay. Get your shit together, Kay. That's your son.
I'm just going to call him Kelbert.
Don't ship them, you son of a bitch. In 1985, when Steven was 20 years old, he married 17-year-old Jody Edmondson. Little age discrepancy there, but
20 and 17.
I'm gonna just let it go.
Yeah.
They had 2 children, a daughter named Ashley and a son named Steven Jr. He went on to work with child abduction groups, gave lectures about personal safety, and interviews about his kidnapping and what happened to him while he was with Parnell.
And started selling ice picks to 5-year-olds to protect themselves.
Right. So in 1980, when Steven was returned to his family, I was 5.
Yeah.
So this was like on the news. This was like a big deal.
There's a lot of footage of that return.
Yeah, plenty. Yeah. And it's wild. It's anarchy. Like it's too much. Like, why would you do that? There's cameras in this kid's face and everybody's crowding around. And it's too much. It's claustrophobic to look at.
Yeah.
It's like anxiety inducing to look at. I get tense watching it.
To be in the middle of it, boy.
Yeah. But I was 5, so I like knew about it, but didn't really know about it.
Yeah, as much as
you know, as much as you can as a 5-year-old.
Right.
But early in 1989, when I was 14.
I don't know why you said it that way.
I was in like 9th grade.
Right.
A TV miniseries came out called I Know My First Name is Steven. And Steven acted as an advisor, and he had it was like a weird walk-on role as one of the police officers who bring like movie Steven back to his parents.
Oh, yeah, they recreate that whole
They
chaos,
recreate the chaos, and he's one of the cops that's like, here's your son.
Yeah.
Family.
Back in the chaos.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. But the miniseries aired for the first time on NBC on May 21st and 22nd. So I was 14, and of course I became obsessed with the story because I remembered it from when I was 5, and then this miniseries came out, and then there was a book out about it, so I read that, and then I just became like fascinated with the story.
A real creep.
Yeah, like a real fucking creeper. And it fascinates me to this day, though.
Well, a kind of happy ending for
everybody. Don't jump ahead of yourself, Mike.
No. There's more?
It's not over.
It's not over.
Stephen became a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, no.
Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
A Mormon.
And he was living in his hometown of Merced and humbly working his life away at a pizza shop to support his family. Oh. When on September 16th...
Him and the 17-year-old stayed married?
Married, yeah, with the 2 kids. And they became Mormon, and he was working, and his life was going along, and he was doing the best he could, man. You know?
Yeah.
For all the shit that...
Yeah, you can't expect, normalcy.
I mean, that was pretty normal. It seemed like he's got his life on track, and he was doing okay for himself. So that show came... The miniseries aired in May. In September 16th, 1989, after everything this poor kid has been through and survived through, 24-year-old Steven Stayner's motorcycle collided with a car on his way home from work. He suffered fatal injuries and later died. The driver of the car was a hit and run.
Great. But
was later identified, and it's said that over 500 people were at his funeral, and Timmy White, who at this point was 14, who Stephen had risked his own life to save, was one of his pallbearers.
Oh, good.
Oh.
That's not heart-wrenching at all.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Great. You should have ended it at the happily ever after. Jesus or whoever.
Well, that was a doozy of a story.
Sure was.
However. You'll have to tune in next week to hear the rest of the story about Stephen's older brother, Cary Anthony Stayner. And if you thought this half of the story was crazy Wait until you hear the rest of it. It's a doozy. And
I can't take back-to-back doozies.
And that was the story of Stephen Gregory Stayner.
Oh.
And that's not the rest of the story. But who used to say that? Do you remember that? And now you know the rest of the story. Was that Salty Brine? Was that Salty Brine? Who said that? It was like a radio. It was like he was like a radio and I think maybe even a TV. I think he was like on the news, but also on the radio. And he would tell a little blurb, like a little story about something local or some history or whatever. And then at the end of every episode, he'd go, and now you know the rest of the story. Was it Salty Brine?
Well, we're obviously going to look it up.
I have to look it up, but
if you know, or if that rings a bell, feel free to email us at mafpodcastshow@gmail.com.
Yes, please, because I'm going crazy and I feel like it might be, but I used to listen to it with my grandparents when I was little.
Yeah,
you weren't even born, Michael. It was before you were born, Michael. My friend Michael, my little baby friend, my quote best friend who tried to solicit other best friends right in front of my face, who's lucky he's on the podcast today.
And next week, apparently.
And next week. And the only reason that you're coming back next week is so that the audio syncs up. But watch out, in 2 weeks from now, you might not be here, my friend.
I need to know how the story ends, but you could just say, well, you tune in next week then.
Yeah. You listen to it next week. Maybe I'll do the show by myself next week. Who knows?
No.
It wouldn't be the same without you.
Well,
unless I get a new best friend, and then
okay.
In that case,
without
it's probably going to be a better show.
Oh yeah.
You know,
the title becomes inaccurate without me, unless you replace me. Of course.
Yeah, I can't be like Murder Amongst Joanne and some guy she met at the mall, and quick asked him if he wanted to do a podcast. Yeah. He said yes. They went back, ripped a podcast like real quick, and then she never talked to him again.
Murder amongst Joanne and guy who has MacBook Pro.
Yeah. It doesn't roll off the tongue.
Yeah, not quite as punchy.
Not
catchy.
Not as catchy. No.
Not as good for the search engine optimization.
I don't think we'll be hitting the algorithm.
Yeah. Well, if you want to boost our algorithm, follow us on Instagram or Twitter. Twitter at MAF Podcast Show. If you know Salty Brine or any other weird trivia, email us at mafpodcastshow@gmail.com. Follow us on the YouTubes at Murder Amongst Friends Podcast.
We can see all of our little Bitmoji cartoons.
Yep. And the video episode is up there as well.
Oh, yeah.
We may be aiming in the not too distant future for another go around at the old video, working out a couple of the previous issues we had, but getting
potentially some podcast guests as well. We'll see.
Yeah, we will see.
You never know who might show up.
Well, I hope I was an adequate story listener rather than storyteller.
You were fine.
All right, good. So I'll get another shot at it next week.
It's
fine, I guess.
6 out of 10.
Well, on that note, everybody, goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Join in next week to find out about Cary Stayner. It's a doozy. Bye.
Bye.